right, here we go with my favorite part of the program. DraftKings is now our sponsor. How about that? So we actually have a reason to pick these games against the spread and do all that. So if we're going to pick games against the spread, you got to bring in the guru, right? You got to have the guy from the lovely flower garden in Southern California to put the finishing touch
He's
on
rubbing
this.
it in our faces, really.
And there it is. That is the prediction now. That is the prediction.
Right
now tell people why you have the owl in your backyard.
Well, because we've had a bird invasion, and these aren't little robins or songbirds. We have a crow and a vulture invasion. So the only way to stop that is to go to your nearby gas station and get one of these for about 28 cents, and this will take care of that. So that's my security force in my backyard here in SoCal.
So the vultures are no longer circling over your pool at this point?
Not at this particular moment, but stand by, because something could happen before this segment is done, and then we'd really have a scoop.
George is cracking up. He loves everything you do. So let's figure out whether or not Al really knows anything about betting on football, because there's always a mild reference at the end of some games about some people may care about whether or not this field goal is made or not. And I never know what he's talking about.
Of course not.
But other people seem to have some idea. So, George, get us started here. What are the big games of the week this week?
Yeah, last week we didn't really have any. There were a lot of kind of games. This week there's a bunch.
Big games.
Some big ones. And let's start with Cleveland-Pittsburgh on DraftKings Sportsbook. Pittsburgh favored by 3.5.
Al, your initial
you're
thought.
Asking,
yeah, don't
you're
think.
Asking me?
Yes.
And by the way, you do know exactly what I'm talking about every time I bring that into play. It's amazing how often the over and under comes into play on our games, and very often it's like you're only a half point, off. Either it's a horrible beat, or it's nirvana. You came out of nowhere to win your bet.
But
Cleveland, Pittsburgh. I think that we haven't seen either team. I wish we know so much more if we've had the team, but we haven't, and we haven't seen Cleveland since week 3 last year. Pittsburgh, we had a couple of times down the stretch last year, as I recall. I'm going with Georgia on this one. He's the man. He knows what's happening here. What do you think?
Let's talk about Baker. Now, Baker Mayfield supposedly has the rib injury, right?
Yeah.
And the x-rays came back negative. Let me tell you what that means. That means nothing. I've had so many cracked ribs in my career, and you know what they do? They take you in for an x-ray, which is utterly worthless because you cannot see cracked ribs. You know when you can see cracked ribs? A week and a half later, when it starts to calcify, then you take an x-ray, and which they've done with me several times. They're like, oh, we must have missed it on the first one. I go, no, because it didn't calcify yet.
Yeah.
Because they don't want you to think you have cracked ribs, because they want you to go play. So right now they went out, they took x-rays of Baker, and they said, oh, no, there's nothing on there. And in probably a week, you'll see the little calcification where he did have a cracked rib. So he's going to be hurting. He'll play. But when you play against that Pittsburgh defense, and he's not playing that well, Baker's not playing that well, and that Pittsburgh defense is playing great, I don't care what the point spread is, I'll take Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so here was my thought on this. As you said, Baker Mayfield's grading worse than he did last year. And they just beat the Colts. They're at the top of the market here. Everyone loves Cleveland. They want to hop on the bandwagon. Pittsburgh, they're blitzing 50% of the time. They're getting pressure 10% more than any other team. I'm with you. I just think that this is the time Baker Mayfield crumbles.
There you go.
I don't know what Al the Owl has to say there.
I'm listening to you guys. I mean, this. You're asking me for information.
You're pleading.
And you guys have all of the information. And I love the way Chris says a cracked rib means nothing. But what if you're throwing it and not receiving it, right? It's one thing when you were getting your x-rays pre-calcification, by the way, which I learned from you. I didn't realize you had gone to medical school in Gainesville as well as engineering school.
The more you can do.
But I think I don't know what that means. I really don't. And I think George makes a great point in that Cleveland is kind of like it's a great story. A lot of people want to see the Cleveland Browns, who have not done well, obviously, for a long, long time, do well. And I think that factors into more people, going in that direction. But you guys both make great points, and that's why I'm sitting here just observing and listening and then putting my bet down.
All I know is the best line just slid right by both of us. Owl's owl. I had never put it together like that. Owl's owl. I think that's fantastic. The rest of my life, I'll have that name for that owl.
I've told you this. I told you this story. I mean, when I was doing the Cincinnati Reds back in prehistoric times, like 1971. And R.I.P. Joe Morgan, by the way, great guy, and it's so sad. But when I was doing the Reds back in '71, so in those years, no internet, no Federal Express, no anything. So you'd get snail mail, and we're in spring training, and we come back, and there's a stack of mail in the office addressed to me, and I can't wait to open it up to see how great I'm doing. And the first letter I look at has all kinds of stuff you couldn't say even on a podcast on the outside of the envelope, much less on television. And I opened it up, and it's a letter destroying me completely. But it's from Corbin, Kentucky, and the salutation is "Dear Al, DEEROWL," and that's when I knew I was in big trouble. But it got better from there.
Why does it always have to be a Kentucky guy, man? You always got to make fun of Kentuckians. You know what I mean?
I'm not making fun. No, I'm not making fun of Kentucky. I'm just, I'm a trained journalist, and I want to get the facts right. And the postmark did say Corbin, Kentucky.
It's being a snooty
I don't
Californian.
Make stuff up.
He is. Which is like George is a snooty Californian too. So you got kindred spirits here.
I'm gonna gang up on you.
They Green Bay and Tampa Bay. Now, Al, we have seen the Green Bay Packers. Very impressive, right? Would you agree? Very impressive. Tampa Bay is, they had a lot of people hurt Thursday night, maybe too short a period of time for that game, and they didn't really look good. They didn't look sharp. Chicago looked better. What do you think? Is Green Bay for real? Every time I've watched Green Bay play so far this year, just razor sharp. I mean, not just a little bit sharp. They have been razor sharp on offense.
Yeah, and I mean, you got receivers coming out of nowhere. The tight end Tanyan, and with 3 touchdowns in a prior game. It's funny. I look at this game and I think about the involvement of the league and what's happened over a bunch of years, obviously a lot of years. But Pete Axtell, who was a writer, and I think he was one of the first guys who predicted games on, I think, NBC on a pregame show many, many years ago. So when Green Bay and Tampa Bay were both terrible, he called that game the Bay of Pigs. So that Green Bay Tampa Bay game has come a long way since the late Pete Axtell was making his picks. I mean, Green Bay looks great. They look fantastic. The game is where, Georgie, I forgot.
It's in Tampa. In Tampa, this is flipped. So Green Bay, now the favorite. They're a 2.5-point favorite. Here's what I keep coming back to is, you watch that Thursday night game in Chicago, and Tampa Bay just made so many errors. I mean, just all over the place. The one that everyone remembers is the 4th down, disaster. But I don't know. Everyone loves Green Bay. I'm curious if you guys think they're better than Seattle.
I'm going to say yes right now. I think they have the potential to be better on defense. Now, when Adams comes back for Seattle, maybe that flip-flops back the other way. But Seattle can't get to the passer. I mean, they did a little bit in that game the other night against Minnesota, but Minnesota has this, really tough way to go at guard there. So I think I personally feel like 2 great quarterbacks, the 2 front runners for MVP. So that's kind of a wash.
Yeah.
I think Green Bay has a better chance, I think, on defense, just because maybe they can get after the quarterback a little better.
Al?
I agree. I think that, the Seattle defense, got shredded the other night on the ground. I mean, Minnesota ran at will. They did make the stop when they had to make the stop which let Russell Wilson come in and lead that incredible drive. But, Green Bay's defense is better. This is a very interesting game. And, what's the weather forecast going to be like in Tampa Bay? A lot of times, not that it's chilly in Green Bay, maybe later in the season it would be a little bit different. But a lot of those teams, come down to Florida, to Chris's beloved Florida. And it's hot and it's humid and it's sticky, and that sometimes makes a difference.
86 and sunny.
But the bottom line is, what do we know? What do we know? We're just we're providing content right now. That's what it amounts to.
Here's what I'll say about this. You guys both clearly really like the Packers as a team. I think America loves the Packers. It's easy to love them. And the last time people saw Tom Brady, it was him forgetting the down. I kind of like the idea of betting Tom Brady, and taking Tom Brady when everyone is kind of
when he's the whipping boy.
Yeah, that's
not a bad strategy. How many times has he lost 2 games in a row? Do you have any idea?
Not often.
Yeah, not often.
So
not often. Here's the team I know very little about. How about Carolina and what they're doing right now? Everybody, Al, would you agree? Everybody basically was thinking Carolina is the front runner for the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, that they're going to end up being the team that just simply can't get out of their own way. New head coach, new quarterback, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new special teams coordinator. And yet here they are, winners of 3 in a row, right?
Without Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, without McCaffrey.
Well, yeah, that's amazing. I know. I remember, they started out 0-2. And, of course, where do you go to get healthy when you're 0-2? You go to play the Chargers. And then that lets you get.
Oh, he's a little bitter about the game last night. Now you got to know the only thing Al really cares about is geography. So the only teams he cheers for are ones that are closest to LA. So when the Chargers lump out every week, then it's always the best. So we're sitting there in the booth and we're watching the games, and the Chargers are usually on late, and they always have about a 10-point lead, and then you just can know it's going to happen. You just know they're going to slowly fold, and then the meltdown happens from Al Michaels on the other side of the booth. It is pure entertainment.
Here's the deal. First of all, again, as a trained journalist, let's get your facts straight, partner. A 17-point lead, not a 10-point lead, which they managed to blow, I think, 2 in a row. The bottom line is this. When I was a kid growing up, I loved the American Football League when it started. And I actually went to every Charger game in Los Angeles when they began here in 1960, and then they moved to San Diego the following year. So, I kind of have this thing in my heart about, as you do with the Bengals since you played there. I mean, for me, the Chargers are a team that I watched right from the get-go. Jack Kemp was the quarterback, wound up running for vice president of the United States. So there's a little affinity I have with that team. And then I sit there and I watch them, and I was thinking last night, I can't think of a team that's been more star-crossed in recent years than the Chargers. They have lost some of the most excruciating, gut-wrenching games ever. And I would put them and the Cowboys. I mean, when you look at the Cowboys, too, you go through the last 15 years of Dallas's losses, and you go, that's impossible. How did they lose that game? And I think the Chargers right now, George, you would agree, right?
Yeah.
The Chargers have had as many excruciating, gut-wrenching losses as any team in the NFL.
Does it, like Phillip Rivers' entire career feels like it's gut-wrenching loss after gut-wrenching loss. And maybe it just is the team thing, because last night was pretty brutal too. Now, I will say this. They covered 7.5 pretty easily. Just saying. So maybe they're improving.
Well, yeah.
So that's
barely.
important.
And when New Orleans took the lead, I mean, I thought they were going to extend it to 10. But you're right, George. I never thought about that. They did cover last night. Good point.
So they're
Al's just a fan. There's the text he sent me. We won't repeat it when they blew the lead. But I'll just say this. There are 8 exclamation points after the word Chargers. I won't say what was before the word Chargers.
Listen, I can't believe I go on this podcast, and the next thing you know, my career is going to be over because I'm sitting here with you guys getting destroyed.
Getting exposed.
Oh, my God. Anyway, so now that my career is over, I'll just have a Howard Beale moment and sign off here.
They had what was so I just talked to Drew. What does he call you? What one lucky call of a hockey game away?
Yeah. You never know, man. I'm telling you, one call, baby. We're still dining out on that one.
Tell George how many people had your experience doing hockey when they did the Olympic tryouts for that year. How did you get the job as the Olympic announcer?
Well, I was on a staff at ABC. I mean, this is the Mount Rushmore of announcers at that point. Howard Cosell, Jim McKay, Keith Jackson, Chris Schenkel, Bill Fleming was there, Frank Gifford. So, you know, I'm the new kid, and I came in 3 years prior to that. And somebody had to do hockey in Lake Placid. So, you know, McKay had never done a game. He was going to do the host role in figure skating. Frank Gifford and his buddy Bob Beatty, all they wanted to do was the après ski scene. So they were sent up the mountain to cover alpine skiing and then, you know, hang around all night and have fun. Keith Jackson actually got the assignment that I wanted. I wanted to do speed skating because the big star of those Olympics was going to be Eric Heiden, who, you know, was expected to win 5 gold medals, which he did. So Keith got that. And then I got hockey. And when I got the assignment, I got it because I had done one game. I had done one. And nobody else had done any.
He was
Zero.
the most experienced hockey announcer with one.
Right. I was but also I grew up in New York, and I loved the Rangers. And, you know, hockey's a cult sport, and I love hockey. And I taught Chris everything he knows about hockey.
That's true.
And the thing was, I could explain icing and offside. In those years, that was important. People didn't know what that was.
I still don't know what that is.
The blue line and the whole thing. So I was able to get that assignment. The good thing about hockey in the Winter Olympics is you're inside. You don't have to get outside in the elements. So I was pretty happy about that. And then, of course, I was fairly ecstatic when the thing ended to think that, you know, 40 years later, the folks are still talking about it. That was a one-off, but it was a wonderful one-off.
Did you know when you made that call, were you like right after it, you were like, oh yeah, that was it?
Nope.
No bat flip, nothing?
Nope. Because I've told the story before. Ken Dryden, my partner, and I, we were walking over to the arena, and I said to him, man, I just hope in the middle of the second period it's only like 3-1. So at least it sounds close, because my fear was that the Soviets were so much better, they would be leading, you know, 6-0 at the end of the first period. And so when the first period ended 2-2, we go, whoa, boy, you know, this is about as good as it's going to get. And then we held them to 1 goal in the second. It was 3-2. So who knows? And then, of course, the tying goal and the winning goal come within a minute and a half apart in the third period. And then the last 10 minutes are just completely crazy. The Soviets are skating insanely short shifts, and the U.S. is now not controlling the game, not dominating the game, but in a way controlling those last 10 minutes. But Jim Craig still had to make save after save. At the end of the game, I couldn't even remember exactly what I said because I was so astonished. And those words, people said, well, did you script them? I go, script them? I thought the U.S. was going to lose 10-0. I've always felt, let it come out of your heart. And somebody wrote that was kind of like the 9-year-old in me coming out. No, that's as good an explanation as any. I mean, I was like astonished, and the place is going crazy, and we're on a kind of a platform that's shaking up and down, and it was all I could do to concentrate. And then those words just came out of my heart, and away we went.
Speaking of words, can you paraphrase a bit of the story, the motivational speech of the coach when they were about to give up the gold medal at the end?
Well, Herb Brooks was the coach, and not everybody, but a lot of people think the Soviet game won the gold medal. It did not. The U.S. still had to beat Finland on Sunday morning, incredibly enough, and had they lost that game, they would not have won the gold medal. And at the end of the second period, Finland leads 2-1. Now, they were a good team, you know, the third or fourth best team in the tournament coming in, and probably ranked ahead of the United States. So they were no pushovers, but trailing 2-1. So now you've got 20 minutes to go. There's no overtime in the Olympics. You got the third period coming up, and Herb Brooks, before the team went out on the ice for the third period, just stood there by the door, looked back at the team, and said, "If you lose this game, you will take it to your grave. And of course, he had an adjective in front of grave.
Yes, he did.
Figure out what that one was.
It was
and that
same one as the Chargers. Yeah,
that was the greatest, maybe the greatest speech ever given by any coach anywhere.
And they came out and fired away, and that was that.
That's the speech that I give to teams that are blowing it on Sunday from the comfort of this very fine building.
I'll bet that phrase has been uttered a few times around here.
Come on, guys, figure it out.
Absolute sure.
I gave it to the Bengals, actually, this past week, because when we talked about last week's games, both you and I thought the Bengals are going to figure something out. They apparently haven't seen a blitz.
All right, one more, and then we're going to let Al get out of here. He's going to play some golf.
We saved the best for last, though.
This is an interesting game. So Arizona at Dallas. We have the great Andy Dalton taking over for Dak Prescott here. And I first of all, Al, you know the Jones family probably as well as anybody. What do you think happens next year? Of course, he's on, he's tagged this year. What do you think happens with Dak next year?
I'll say this. I mean, we know the Jones family. You know the Jones family very well as too, and we've been down there a lot. Jerry is a very principled man. He really is, and I think everybody in that organization obviously is heartbroken by what happened the other day, and Jerry Jones is not somebody who is going to throw somebody out in the trash, figuratively speaking. And of course, that was a bad injury. It's going to take months to heal. Who knows what Dak's going to be like next year? Hopefully he'll come back at 100%. We don't know. But I know that, I think Jerry will do the right thing. I don't know what he's going to do. It's a hard choice. We all know that. I mean, if you're running a football team and you have this particular situation, you don't know how anybody's going to react. But I will say, I believe Jerry is and always has been, and that family's been very principled. And they know that Dak has meant so much to that franchise. And he's such a class act. And he's a great quarterback. And hopefully he'll come back 100%. So it's something that will be discussed, I'm sure, up one side and down the other in the off season and for the rest of this season. But I think he always, as I say, he does the right thing by his people, and that's why, a lot of the Cowboys, I'd say 98% of those people who played for Dallas, they have great respect and admiration and love for Jerry. And a couple of other guys are going, you got to take care of your players. He does. I think Jerry Jones takes as good care of his players as any owner I know.
Takes pretty good care of announcers sometimes too.
Yeah, he takes care of people. He does. He does. And you and I both know. I mean, Jerry gets slings and arrows because he's out there. He's in the spotlight. He's a famous man. But I have a great deal of admiration and respect for him because I think he's a very principled man.
So let me ask you this then, because here's the question that's going around. Dak Prescott is out, but Andy Dalton is in. This isn't like, Trevor Siemian coming in here. This is a guy that's gone to the playoffs before. So Dallas was favored by 3. Look ahead with Dak. 3.5. Now they're 2.5 3-point underdogs. Andy Dalton won that game. Like, he made some nice throws. Do you guys think that this offense takes a massive step back with Andy Dalton? Should they really be an underdog at home to the Cardinals?
No. I mean, to me, this team's about those 3 receivers and Zeke at this point, right? I mean, that's what they're going to be. And can Andy Dalton deliver the ball to those guys? As long as the protection holds up. I mean, remember what Andy Dalton faced in Cincinnati over all these years.
Yeah, we're seeing it again.
No protection, right? I mean, Joe Burrow's getting a taste of it right now. So, do I think Andy Dalton can win, especially a game at home, and there'll be raw emotion out there, and the team will want to win one for Dak, and he'll probably, I don't know if he'll show up on the sideline or not, but maybe be in the booth or box or somewhere up there. So, I mean, if I had to pick the game, I would pick Dallas.
I think I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean that's a wide disparity from being a 3-point favorite to a 3.5-point underdog. I'm not sure I understand that either. But if you see Roger Staubach warming up on the sideline before the game. Keep me abreast of how that line moves, would you?
What about Romo?
Romo was there, you know. Romo was there.
How weird was that? Garrett was there, and Romo happened to be calling
like Chris said, Romo's looking to play on Monday night. He's looking to announce and he's looking to play on Monday night. Who knows?
Al, give George, before you go play golf, give George how you tell your partners exactly how hard to hit the putts. Let's see if the boy wonder over here can figure this one out.
Okay, so we were there. I created this situation. We got flies going on. Right, hold on 1 second. Let me get this all up here. Get rid of these flies. Okay, so we had a caddy, and instead of telling me, how hard I should hit it, and the way caddies would normally say, he would say things like, "All right, this putt is 2 cups on the right, and it is Logan Mankins. This putt is a cup and a half on the left, and it is Emmitt Smith." What do you think he meant, George?
Man, I'm guessing if he said a running back, he meant you want to hit it kind of firm.
Good guess, but wrong. Damn. The only guy who cracked the code, and I'll get to that in a second, but he would come up with a number of the player. Oh. So when I had Bob Kraft was out there one day, and he had Logan Mankins, and he loved the way that was positioned. And then some former Cowboy was out there, and Emmitt Smith, so hit it 22%. Logan Mankins was 60 or 70 something. So in other words, that's how hard you wanted to hit it. Donald Driver, you'd hit the putt 80%, and the caddy was a big Packer fan. So Peyton Manning is out there with me about 5 or 6 years ago, and he cracked the code by the second hole, right? And so he wanted to know if we've ever had a putt for him. So we get to the 16th hole, and the caddy says, "All right, it's 2 cups on the right, Peyton." And Manning goes, "Yeah, finally." And I go, "Not you, Walter."
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.